আমাৰ বেসিক ৰেভিনিউটো আমাৰ গাঁওবুঢ়া আমাৰ ট্ৰেডিশনেল নিয়ম মতে চলে তো আমাৰ যে মাটি ল'ব আমি গমেই নাপাওঁ আৰু চৰকাৰৰ এটা প্ৰথম দায়িত্ব আছিল প্ৰজেক্ট আহিলে আমাক ক'ব লাগে তাক কাৰ্বি ভাষাত ট্ৰান্সলেট কৰিব লাগিব ৰিপৰ্টটো অসমীয়া আৰু কাৰ্বি ভাষা দুইটা ভাষাতে বেনাৰ পোষ্টাৰ হ'ব লাগিব তাৰপিছত তাত মানুহে কি অবজেকশন আছে নাই তাৰ কাৰণে এটা টাইম পিৰিয়ড দিব লাগিব সেই ধৰণৰ কোনো ডিউ প্ৰচেছ যিটো আইনী ব্যৱস্থা পালন কৰিব লাগে একো কৰা নাই সিহঁতি কৈছে যে ওচৰে পাজৰে কোনো ধৰণৰ জংঘল নাই আমি গম পোৱা মতেতো গৰম পানী বা নাম্বৰ ৰিজাৰ্ভো বেছি দূৰ নহয় গম পোৱা মতেতো ইয়াত হাতী বাঘ চৰে চৰে নাই হাতী আহে নাই সিহঁতি কৈছে একোৱে নাই হাতী চাতি একোৱে নাই ইয়াত কোনো ধৰণৰ জীৱ জন্তু মানুহ কাৰো এফেক্ট নহয় অকল ৩২ ঘৰ মানুহৰ উচ্ছেদ হ'ব বুলি কৈছে
তাইখন লগা ৰিপ্লাই হিচাপতে ইয়াতে অনলি 92.5 uncultivated মানে wasteland আছে কৈছে বাকি 7.8% হে আছে মানে গাছ-গছনি বাগান অলপ আছে কৈছে there is an act land acquisition act কৈ কিনে একটা আছে দেই তাতে আছে transparency number 1 number 2 হৈছে আমি কান land valuation পইলা আমি কিনকে ক'ব লাগে ইমান দিবলে আছে আমি খান লাগা বেনিফিশিয়ারি লিস্ট টু পেপার গেজেট অফ ইন্ডিয়াতে পাবলিশ করব লাগে নিয়ম দে মাটি মালিক কোন কোন আছে আজি তো কিটো দিয়া নাই তো তাই লুকাই রাখছে কি আপনি খান কোন দিন আমি খান কোন দিন নাই তো মাটি মালিক তাই খান কেএসসি খানে হয়েছে আমি কেএসসি না তো এইটো কাৰণে আমি খান এইটো সব ওলাব বলে তো একটা কমিটি বানাই আমি খান ওলাব লাগিব এতিয়া আপুনি খান যদি মঞ্জুৰ আছে বলে
মই নাম হল উইলসন ৰাইমা মই নাফাং গাঁও লগা হয় আৰু আমাৰ বিলাক এতিয়া চলৰ প্ৰজেক্ট যোনটো আমাৰ এৰিয়াত আহিবলৈ কৰি আছো আমি এইটো এৰিয়াটো নাচাৰিম এৰিম কৈ পেলাই আমাৰ বিলাক 23 ভিলেজ আমাৰ বিলাক জইণ্টলি এইটো এগেইনষ্ট কৰি আছো এতিয়া আমাৰ বিলাক এইটো কম্পনচেশ্যনে নালাগে আৰু আমাৰতো এইটো এনচেষ্ট্ৰেল হোমটো আমাৰ এইটো এৰিব নহয় কৈ পেলাই আমাৰ বিলাক ডিচিশ্যন লোৱা হৈছে চব মানুহ বস্তু ৰেডি হ'ব লাগে নাদিম আমিতো মাটিত থাকিব নহয় আমি কম্পনচেশ্যন নালাগে ক'বলৈ সীমাত থাকিব লাগে নহ'লে কিবা বহি কাৰণে কৰি থাকিলে একো নহ'ব
Arab don't see and the people of them so solar project as a few is still on integrating into the Bahuta. A same the moment by a two year and that to PJ two. How to kill them J2.
আমি কিন্তু মাটি এৰি কিনে ক'ত যাব মাটি এৰি কিনে ক'ত যাব ইয়াতে যেনে তেনে আমাৰ এইটো এৰিয়াতে 2-3 হাজাৰ কাৰ্বি মানুহ থাকা ট্ৰাইবেল মানুহ থাকা এইটো বি খতম কৰিব গ'লে ক'ত যাব আমি খান কোন কোন দিবলৈ মন নাই হাত উঠাবি তো দিবলৈ মন নাই না
Company, go back. IDB, go back. Asian Development Bank, go back. Company lagi belum saya tuntut bunde tapi nadun tu itu belum dah kegugur 18,000 dikha kalau le 16% की पीसी बिहार में तुम बेलो नहीं कहो लेके पेगा 500 लगे Council tu, lastly in the idea you get to long way to Java, all so long never get to check people to Japan. Go back. Everyone or mati no no solibo. Everyone mati no no solibo. বন্ধ করা আমি 50,000 বিঘা হোক 10,000 হোক 18,000 হোক এক এনজিও আদানি আম্বানিক আমি মাটি নিদিও এমপি ডিলিটি 2,000 যে কোম্পানি নামে জম্বানি দম এবিবি গো ব্যাক
That is majorly funded by the Asian Development Bank. So we would like to bring to your notice that the quality documents that have been present to you doesn't portray the truth of the impact that the project is going to have on the people, which is more than 20,000 individuals. And not only the human individuals, but also it is the last resort in a free moving space for the Indian elephant and other important species which share the space with us. So in this concern, I would like to bring to you the prayers and the demand of the people to be the subject of this unfolding tragedy. And you have all this person to stop and absolve the people from this uncalled tragedy. And we pray that since there has been no construction, since there has been no land disposal, we pray that you will take cognizance of it and rethink the whole project there, allowing the indigenous communities protected by the Indian Constitution 6th schedule to govern themselves with their own customary rights and continue living in those spaces and enriching the environment which is present there. And the biggest lie that has been told to you, it is a degraded land, it is a wasteland. No, that is one of the most green covered areas in Assam. And we pray that all these lies which are being put out to you gets the truth out of it, and the people are able to get justice out of this demands and requests. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this. This is a very short glimpse of the movement that was happening in Karbi Anglong and across various cities and towns. And we plan to make it into a larger documentary as the struggle is still not over yet. Before I get on to the webinar, let me just remind you some of the house rules. So I think all of you know that this will be about 1.5 hours of conversations. We'll have 1 hour of various presentations by the members of the panelists, the esteemed panelists who are present here, and they'll be speaking for 10 minutes each, and then we'll have half an hour long interaction. You can, if you can see a raise hand icon below the video, the screen, you can click on that and also put your comments on the chat boxes. Also, please note that this is going to be live streamed, and we are also recording this entire thing for educational purposes. So, and also, if you don't wish to name yourself and remain anonymous, you can do so by changing a name in the Zoom box. I'll without we don't have much time, so I'll start with what this webinar is all about. And what you saw as the title, the Assam Solar Power Project Karbi Anglong is a 1,000 megawatt multi-location solar power plant. It was proposed as a public-private partnership model with 50% financing by the Asian Development Bank. The ADB granted a loan of $434.25 million USD to Assam government towards the development of this project. Green energy or renewable energy represents a major leap and shift in the energy sector in which the solar has emerged as a key. Large areas of land are being acquired towards the objective of being fitted with solar panels across multiple places to attain 500 gigawatt target by 2030 set by the Indian government. Coming to Assam Solar Power Project, which was proposed in Karbi Anglong, has been made under contention from the perspective of the indigenous peoples and their rights. The project's major site falls under Karbi Anglong Autonomous Council and Indigenous administrative area protected by the 6th schedule of the Indian Constitution. If this project comes up, it would displace 2,408 hectares of forest, agriculture, and village land, comprising of 24 villages, which is 20,000 or more people. And what we are witnessing here is that this contentious claims made by the Assam government as well as independent consultants of ADB were challenged by the community elders and people of these 24 villages, along with major opposition parties like All Parties Hill Leaders Conference, National People's Party, CPI-ML, mass organizations like All India Kisan Sabha. They opposed the project on the ground. And with the support of the local village elders from Karbi, Naga, and Adivasi community, a committee was formed to challenge the Assam government as well as ADB's narrative to justify this solar power project. This committee, the Karbi Anglong Solar Power Project Affected People's Rights Committee, organized peaceful and democratic resistance on the ground. Two of its members also attended a meeting organized by ADB in Milan. You saw it on the video itself, one of our members addressing the ADB officials. And they reminded them about their commitment to the indigenous land rights and apprised them on the opposition to the project. From what we gather, on May 23rd, ADB withdrew the loan to the Assam government. The people opposing this project, including the affected villages, have welcomed this and demanded Assam government to cancel the entire project. Now, coming to the major questions that this webinar would be addressing, one is the idea of just transition to green and renewable energy, the truth behind it. Secondly, we are looking at international financing, the global energy economy, its impact on the indebted states and its people. The violation of the safeguards provided under the 6th schedule of the Indian Constitution, under which the Karbi Anglong Autonomous Council is also protected. The violation of environmental laws and the rules in the land acquisition process, and the concerns of the indigenous people, and the idea of free, prior, informed consent. So these are some of the concerns. These are some of the questions we are looking at in this webinar. The webinar will have speakers from the projected affected people and also civil society representatives from various conditions and experts who have been working on the issues for a long time and have been contributing to the idea of just energy transitions with rights for the indigenous and the affected communities. The webinar has been organized by People Ecology Network, an organization dedicated to raising the issues related to the rights of people vis-a-vis ecological concerns across Northeast India, and Growth Watch, a voluntary research and advocacy institution to protect natural resources from being grabbed by powerful groups. We have a panel of speakers. I won't keep you waiting, and we have Vikram Hanse to begin this entire conversation. He is a youth political leader and also the advisor to the Karbi Anglong Solar Power Project Affected People's Rights Committee. He has been engaging with the affected peoples from the ground and has taken their voice ADB, the Karbi Autonomous Council, the Assam Power Distribution Company Limited, Assam government for redressal. Thank you, Vikram, for joining us. Without delaying, if you want to start your conversation. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Anupam. Thank you so much for bringing us together, and also Ecology Network for bringing us all together. The first thing I would like to add on this is that the Karbi Anglong Solar Power Affected People's Rights Committee, this particular committee is set up by the affected villagers of those 23 villages, and then this committee has spearheaded and taken the lead of this movement to protect the indigenous people lands and their agricultural land, also the areas which are rich in animals like the elephant corridor itself. So this Karbi Anglong Solar Power Project Affected People Rights Committee has stand firm on these issues, because this particular project has violated that free, prior, informed consent to those villages. The villages doesn't know what exactly is going to benefit from the solar power project, and also what is going to be the disadvantage of this solar project. So we had been engaging with the villages, affected peoples, and then hearing their grievances and issues in the local in their areas that initiated the movement for the last 3 years. So in the ground, there has been a lot of confusion by the villages because the nodal agency called the APDCL could not aware the affected villages with proper, uh, following all the rules that they need to come up. That's the reason why the villagers were totally not aware of those projects. That's make the villagers very fair about the project, and then the movement started, and then we have given also our petition to the local government, that is Karbi Anglong Autonomous Council, and also to the APDCL, the nodal agency to be or the implementing agent, and also to the state government, the Assam state government, and also to other concerned departments. But those petition and those memorandums which we were submitted were never looked into in a series, never looked into, and then never try to, take up the issue by the government side. That's at the end. At the end, we are very happy that the Asian Development Bank has an annual meeting at Milan on the last month of May, that is on 4th to 7th, which allowed us to attend the meeting that really helped us to meet all the global leaders, the CSOs and the NGOs, and finally to our Asian Development Bank president, which we could exactly address our grievances before him, and then that shows that at least we have reached our goal to address our grievances. By that grievances, when we return back home on the 23rd of May, we came to know that the Asian Development Bank has cancelled the funding to the Assam government. That is very encouraging and very proud moment for all the affected villages, and that in that instances the people are very happy, and then they are very secure that they will be getting back their own paddy fields and then their own plot of lands where they have been there for their ancestral period of time. But in reality now is that the state government as well as the local government, Karbi Anglong Autonomous Councils, they try to put it out again that even though the Asian Development Bank has cancelled the funding, by anyhow they are trying to bring the funding agencies from the other sources. That was what the local government and the state government trying to push to those affected villages, that create another fair psychosis to those villages, because they are really helpless at this point of time. And then that's why the Karbi Anglong Solar Project Affected People's Rights Committee started to move to the villages again, and then talk with the affected people and also to the local political party to join hands and stop the project totally. That was what at present. In the ground, there has been a lot of threatening and then the warning to all the villages as well as to the committee of Karbi Anglong Solar Project, that the political party called the BJP, Bharat Janata Party, and their workers, which they wanted to have the compensation of the land, compensation for the land, but they could not convince the villages, but they are threatening the committee members as well as the front runner of those activists who are on the ground. So on the other part of the uh, I would like to add is that we and the affected peoples of the solar project areas would like to appeal once again to totally withdraw the project so that our indigenous peoples and the uh, affected peoples living in that areas are fully, happy, and then they will be enjoying, and then they will be able to, go for the livelihood in the form of agriculture and any other form. That was what I would like to add in initially. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vikram. This was great to hear about your how this came about, and we'll have a conversation later also when the question answers will follow. May I? We will have with us Anita Mej, madam. She is also a part of the Karbi Anglong solar power project affected People's Rights Committee, and she is a grassroots activist from the Naga community who would be losing the land to this project. She hails from a very interesting area in between Assam, in the Assam Nagaland border. Ma'am, I would like to request you to come and join and also speak on your experiences that you witnessed in the last few months related to this movement. Thank you.
Thank you, Anupam. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Anupam. Okay. See, yes, the solar project was a bit too much frightening thing for the Karbi people, the indigenous tribes of Karbi Anglong. We, the individual owners, were never addressed that there was a solar project coming in. The Autonomous Council had approached the Gamburas, but the Gamburas are not the sole owners. They are just, a coordinator between the villagers and the Autonomous Council. But the Gamburas, they had taken the full, responsible, and they have, without asking the villagers individually, they have taken our land for the purpose. But none of the villagers are happy with it. As we know, our land is our only resource that the villagers have. We duly depend on this land for our agriculture purposes and for our livelihood, for every family. There are many agricultural sectors where they grow vegetables and do a little bit of marketing. That is what we have for our daily life, sustainable life. Now, bamboos are cultivated, and many rubber trees are there. Many costly cash crops are there. Now, if the government wanted to take all this land, where will the villagers go? We, the tribals, we are not into business. We don't know what to do about business. If we get money in place of this, the land, then we are going to have, we are going to get a suicide for all the villagers. We don't know how to do business. We know only agriculture. And the animals, we rear animals, we rear pigs, we rear sheep and goats, we rear pigs, chickens, ducks, and all this will be destroyed when the entire world, is moving, towards, protecting the environment, the nature, observing a world day environment, planting a tree or a plant like this. But we have, by the grace of God, we have all in natural. And that also the government wants to destroy, which is, it is, very frightening thing for the entire area people. Not only the affected landowners, but the villagers, the neighboring villagers also, they're so scared about it. So we oppose the solar system, and we thank our a few of our panelists and our members who had gone up to the ADB department to cancel our this solar project and protecting our people. The government, see, the government, instead of taking our land, should have started some professional institutions. We will never be employed. We will never be employed. They say they are, trying to manipulate the people's mind, saying that we will be employed, students will be employed, people will be employed. But when we don't have that criteria to be employed, how can we get employment? We will be, only the, guards or security people. Our people are not that educated. Government should have thought it before bringing all this type of firms. They should have, constructed more of the educational institution, professional institutions, so that one day or the other, when there is a big project coming up, the students, the children, their own, our own people will be employed. But this solar project has, affected everyone's mind spiritually, mentally. They were harassed. We were all harassed. I am also a landowner out there. I will never want to give my land. This is all our assets that we have for our grandchildren, for our future generation. So the impact that is going to be on this society, it is going to affect us a lot. So we don't want, now the ADB thankfully has objected to the fund that is going to be given. And we, in future also, we will never be wanting to give it to any private sector. Whoever is interested also, we will never do or die. The government should kill us if they want to bring such a solar project in our land. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita ma'am. This was really interesting to hear your thoughts on this movement and how you have engaged with it and resisted. If I may, I'd like to, we'll come back to you with more questions perhaps in the interaction round. We have with us Vidya Dinkar. She's a senior and a very prominent social activist from India, founder of Growth Watch, South Asia Just Alliance, Just Transition Alliance. She has been a nuanced and a powerful advocate for the people's concern in the national as well as global platforms. And Vidya is going to tell us about this, the entire policy around the solar, this new solar parks and the financing behind it. So if I can quickly, get started with, we can hear from Vidya. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anupam. Thank you. Well, I was just thinking that this is actually the time for kudos and congratulations to all the brave fighters of the Karbi, Naga, and Adivasi communities from Karbi Anglong who have really been relentless, consistent, persistent, and ensured this success. They fought long and hard, but is it time to really rest on their laurels? That, I think, that time hasn't come yet. And somehow we need to sort of understand that whatever they fought for, their lands, their forests, their ways of living, the biodiversity that they are so, so proud of, none of that is actually completely safe yet. We all know that when it comes to our governments, especially if we talk of South Asia, we're still very gung-ho about big. Big is still beautiful. Big dams, big solar parks, big wind farms, and everything big is beautiful, is pursued quite with a lot of enthusiasm by the government. And now, of course, we have folks in our government who dream of one sun, one world, and one grid. So they really dream big. And when it comes to a green or a solar project, a clean energy project, they think that they can be juggernauts that can really ride roughshod on the community's sentiments, on even basic things that when we look at an indigenous community and think of a project there, the first thing comes to mind is free, FPIC, free, prior, and informed consent. And we think that if the government is doing this and it actually has a financier like the Asian Development Bank or any other international financial institution, that FPIC will actually be, respected, the principle. Instead, what we saw is what, 1 second, everybody is keeping on chatting, and because I'm thinking as I'm speaking, could you go a little slow on the chats, because I tend to read them. Thank you. So I was thinking that because it's an IFI, we think that the FPIC principle will be actually listened and adhered to. And yet what we heard from Madam Anita is that it wasn't. Instead, there was this whole manufacturing of consent where the government appointed village elders were so-called consulted, and consent was taken from them. They're government appointees. Of course, they'll give you consent. And on behalf of the larger community that has been opposing this project from day one, from the day they even heard that such a thing might come their way, which is a good 2-3 years ago. And they've been consistent, as you saw with the little video that Anupam and team played for you, that they have been in the streets, they've written, they've petitioned, they've reminded, they've gone to the press, and they've really mobilized in such a way that they have exposed everyone, not just the friendly IFI financier, the ADB, that has had to step back, but also the Indian government and how it has been going about its business of climate leadership that they like to project themselves as. So we know that there are no guardrails when it comes to a solar park project, even if it is a big, we know it's a big land grab, it's big biodiversity loss, and yet they do not need to do an environmental impact assessment. They do not need to follow the whole process, which our law usually has in place for projects. They do not have to even have an environmental management plan, just because it is a so-called green project. So really we are getting false solutions being thrust down the throats of our communities across South Asia. And this is what we saw the Karbi Anglong group really resist so valiantly, and they've actually temporarily defeated the Goliaths. I don't think that they can celebrate too long. I think the kind of pressure that they have exerted till now will have to continue, because they must stop the juggernaut, and they must see that the biodiversity that they have preserved and enjoyed until now continues into the future. The other thing that they so wonderfully exposed through their really strong advocacy is how ADB, and we think that the ADB is a bank that has more feet on the ground in comparison with perhaps the AIIB, which is the other Asian bank. But here we saw they were totally exposed. They had gone just by what the project proponents or the promoters were saying. They hadn't done any due diligence, and all the stuff that we think that they will take care of was obviously neglected. It was when the community kept writing to them, met them online, met them in Milan, met all the board members, and pushed the case so very effectively that the ADB felt embarrassed, that the government of Assam and the central government had to take a step back. And therefore, we have been saying that the ADB has to be accountable on another level too, not just in seeing that their large projects that can have impacts on communities actually do not have adverse impacts, but also that when they exit from a project that has embarrassed them, or they think that this is too hot to handle, then there has to be a responsible exit. What we have been seeing with the community and the leadership that has been opposing the Assam solar project is that there is continued surveillance, there is risks of reprisals that are very, very real and immediate to much of the leadership of the movement. And therefore, the ADB cannot just walk away with their hands up, but they need to sort of handhold the Assam government, the Indian government, in saying, if we want to if you want us to keep doing business with you, then you need to see that the communities who have opposed the project, and they are well within their rights to do so, should face no risks of retaliation, of reputational loss, because we are seeing consistently this kind of rumor mongering and throwing of darts, which are very difficult to shake off by the leadership of the Karbi Anglong Solar Power Project Affected Rights Committee. We call upon the ADB to actually have a policy and a robust plan for responsible exit. And we hope that the Karbi Anglong Solar Power Project Affected Rights Committee will keep going from strength to strength. And we, everyone today in this Zoom room, is completely with you all the way, and we will continue to be with you. Thanks, Anupam.
Thank you, Vidya, for such great words of encouragement. I think this is going to go a long way, and it will cement the solidarity that we have between peoples. After this, I want to move to Jiten Yumnam. He has joined us from Imphal in Manipur, which is also under an internet blockade, but he still somehow managed to join. He's the secretary for the Center for Research and Advocacy. He's a writer, he's a documentary filmmaker, and he works on the promotion of Indigenous rights in Manipur. And he's been doing this for several decades. And one of the things that we kind of, we want to know from him is how do the international financing mechanisms, big banks, how do they work in Northeast? And he's been tracking this for years now. So if he could share some insights on these these organizations. Thank you so much. Jiten, are you here?
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you, just to confirm, can you hear me, Anupam?
Yes.
Yes, I can. Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I also wanted to extend my solidarity from the rest of us here to the Karbi and the Naga, and also other Adivasi and other indigenous communities, peoples in Karbi Anglong, for the successful resistance, and also for the timing to at least stop the mega solar park in Karbi Anglong. This is quite a moment that we should also reflect on, and I also take note of what Bikram just shared earlier, also as to how the government, the project authorities are now trying to find additional source of funding, other than ADB to pursue the project. And I think this is something that we really need to reflect, and probably this may be something that probably we cannot stop here, and probably somehow need to find a better way to advocate and also to understand what exactly happening. Of course, ADB has stopped funding for this project, but then it's also good that we reflect on what happened to other solar project in Karbi area again. The Bimim the other project as well, the solar project in Karbi Anglong area, where the Azure private company is very much heavily involved in Assam, with a lot of controversy again around land rights violation, the complete undermining of the environmental integrity, and also complete unaccountability of the project proponents, in addition to the threats and intimidation to the affected communities. Bikir Bamuni, I think that's where the project was initiated. And it's also good to reflect why what actually happened there. This may also link to this may also help in further strategy and advocacy as well, because if you look at the Azure solar plant in Karbi area, we know that Azure, who funded Azure company, there's a whole range of finances to Azure, including the IFC. IFC is the International Financial Corporation, which is a private sector lending arm of the World Bank. So it is very much involved. And then you also have this financial institution called the Proparco. This is a French government external financial lending arm. And then you also have the FMO. FMO is a Netherlands, external financial lending arm of the Dutch Netherlands government. And then you have the Canadian Pension Fund, which is very much funding the Azure Solar, Azure company, and then also the Austrian OEEB. This is another thing. So which means there's a range of finances which are involved in directly and indirectly financing multinational companies. So that's why it is really important that we also keep track and monitor the initiative or or whatever effort from the local authority and the project proponents while pursuing this solar project. And there is one part, and of course that may also help in how do we how do we engage other financial institutions and other companies as well, apart from the government, to ensure that they stop financing this kind of unsustainable and mega, as Vidya was referring to, mega project and everything mega, so in Assam. That is one part. And also I also wanted to highlight another aspect. Of course, when you look at the mega solar project in Assam and even in Northeast now, because these are being pursued in the pretext of renewable energy pools, in the pretext of solving climate crisis, all sort of reasoning green, clean, whatever, just energy transition, all sort of nomenclatures and all sort of reasoning and pretext. But I think it's really important for us to also carefully monitor and also carefully assess some reality, basic reality even in Northeast, apart from the direct impact on the communities, direct impact on people's land and resources, and the environment. And I think there is the fundamental question of the feasibility of pursuing a mega solar project even in the Northeast, even in Assam. And I think this is something that we really need to talk and also challenge whoever is promoting extensive mega solar project in Assam and even in the Northeast. I would like to recall one debate in the Assam Assembly in 2024 February last year, where the power minister goes by the name Nandita Gorlosa. I think she's the power minister of Assam 2024, and there was this debate, and opposition, they were raising this question on the feasibility of solar project in Assam. And in fact, the conversation, the interaction was quite impressive. It may help us to also in the campaign and also in the lobby work as well. As per the debate, the total solar power proposed generation comes around 13,760. Like, it's more than 13,000. Talking about 1,000 megawatt solar project in Karbi areas, including the other one. But then in Assam, the plan is for 13,700 and something. But it's an admission from the power minister of Assam that says that despite the targeted number in terms of thousands and thousands, the actual generation stands somewhere just only 291 megawatt only, and so this is very trickle, very low. And one of the reasons why she said, it's just 291 megawatt out of 13,000 something is because that Assam, one of the reasons is because of the climate change, because of the extreme climate change, extreme flood situation. It actually damages the solar power infrastructure, whatever infrastructure they created. And I think she cited this particular case where this Lalang Kilo area in Akasar area in southern Assam, where the 2023 or 22 flood, it actually washed out and completely destroyed the 25 megawatt solar power project. So that is one. So which means, given the kind of extreme flood situation, extreme climate change impact in Assam, there is even a basic question of feasibility of pursuing this solar project in the region. That is one. And secondly, she also said the lengthy rainfall period in Assam, and also the that is also one of the reasons, she said, one of the reasons why there is less feasibility for pursuing a solar project in Assam. So that's an admission even in the Assam, admission by a power minister in Assam. So, and I think this is something that we really need to take forward. And of course, she also referred to the issue of land. There is little barren land for pursuing solar project. So that's why they try to acquire as much as land, in the pretext of pursuing this thing. So ultimately, that leads to the question. The next question is, where is the land? Where is the land? And my concern, if we went of monitoring other projects in Assam and other northeast part of, is it is not just a mega solar project which are pursued in Assam, in Karbi areas. It is also the large hydropower projects. It is also the palm oil. It is also the mining project. It is also the oil exploration. It is also the road projects. It is also the railway project. So which means these are mega projects. These are so-called national projects. These are called public projects, which actually involve extensive acquisition of land, massive land. So in terms of thousands and thousands, so which means at some point of time, the Karbi, the leaders, and also the indigenous peoples of Assam, even the North, we really need to think about what other projects, what other initiatives are being pursued in our region, which will entail a cumulative impact on the people and also on the land and also the environment. I think this is something that we really, really need to think. So that's where the fundamental question is, where is the land? That is the question. We need to answer to that, no? And Miss Anita Mack, she rightly point out how important is land to indigenous peoples, and so that explains that. And also the second question is, as I also referred to earlier, so is it only solar, is it only solar in Karbi Anglong that led to the lineage plan that led to the displacement of indigenous peoples? So ultimately, given this kind of cumulative impact, it will add intensive pressure on the indigenous peoples, and of course we also need to talk about the environmental impact, the dilution of environmental laws, in India, for example, and how it will impact on indigenous people's rights. And of course we also need to talk how it will actually lead to other set of impact, which I won't go into land, because just to talk about it. But then the potential impact on the forest area, the potential impact on on the agricultural land, potential impact on creating conflict and tension, not just within communities, not just within the government and the project proponents and with the communities, but also the conflict even with the wildlife. Like Assam is particularly prominent in Northeast because of the animal-wildlife conflict. And I think these are initiatives that will actually intensify and aggravate the kind of tension and conflict multiple level. And I would also like to point out this aspect about this climate because sometimes we also need to demystify this entire concept of mega solar power project and also the mega large hydropower project, mega dam project. How these are being pursued as solution to climate change in northeast part of India, especially including in Arunachal, in Assam, even in Manipur. So I think we really need to debunk that idea, because if we look at this particular project, this
Jitin,
Assam mega solar.
Sorry to interrupt, Jitin, but could you wrap it up in like 1 minute? Thank you.
Okay,
Yes,
so
could you wrap-
yes, I'll just add this point. If we look at the climate change, because these are supposedly to combat mitigate climate change, but in fact, the extensive acquisition of land, agricultural land, the extensive acquisition and destruction of forest area, that will actually create more emission of greenhouse gas, so which will ultimately worsen the climate change in the region. And I think this is something that we really need to flag off. And finally, I would from our side, we extend our solidarity, and also we would urge all, even the government of Assam, and also the concerned project proponents to listen to the community, to take the free prime from consent, and also to respect the community's voice and demands. And ultimately, the question is whose development should be for the region? Should be a development led by the people or by the corporate. Ultimately, this mega solar project, as Vidya is referring to, is all about serving the interests, the needs, and the profit motives of the corporate multinational companies. At the expense of the people's right, at the expense of the destruction of the environment. So ultimately, we really need to ensure that the people's voice, people's rights, and people's development agenda are put at the first at the foremost agenda. And finally, to ensure that the corporations, the multinational companies, the financial institutions which are aggressively involved in Assam, in northeast part of India, they should be held accountable. And in fact, there is very limited mechanism to hold the multinational companies and also the all sort of financial institutions accountable. And also to ensure that not even a single community, no community should be targeted. There should be no reprisal, there should be no intimidation to community, asserting their rights, asserting the defense of their future, asserting the collective developmental wish and aspiration based on the rights of indigenous peoples. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jitin, for this wonderful take. I would like to move to our next speaker, who's joined us from Nepal. Thank you so much, Pravindra Shakya, for joining us. He's the convener of Asia Indigenous Peoples Network on Extractive Industries and Energy, founding director of Community Empowerment and Social Justice Network. He's an indigenous activist from Nepal with long-term experience in working with international mechanisms financial institutions for the right of the indigenous communities across Asia. Thank you so much, Praveen, for joining us. Something that we wanted to hear from you very particularly is, how do indigenous communities then, with the solar industry and all sorts of things coming into the indigenous lands, how do they resist, and what are the different ways of resistance that you have, in your experience have found out? So if you can share those experiences. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Dozalapa, namaste everyone. Thank you, Anupam, for that kind introduction, and I thank the organizers for having me for this webinar, particularly Pranab for being a strong defender, strong leader, activist all along, and also extending the kind invitation for this webinar. So yeah. As Anupam, as you have also asked, I think I'll just try to focus on how indigenous communities have kind of registered in the context of energy transition projects in the region, in the particularly in the eight from the experiences of the 8 countries where APNI works. So firstly, I think there is I think what we should definitely note, and I think it has also been noted by earlier speakers, is that transition or energy transition projects have not been just for indigenous peoples and other communities, marginalized communities. In the context, in the works of AAPNI 2, what we have seen when we have with the communities or the defenders, that we have provided sub grants or financial assistance and technical assistance for international advocacy over the last 1.5 years. For around 20 sub grants that we have made, or 20 campaigns or defenders that we have supported. Most of them are in relation to energy transition projects. As Jiten has already pointed, these are hydropower projects, hydropower affected communities, hydropower project affected communities, or offshore wind energy project affected communities in South India. These are also communities affected by mining of critical minerals such as copper, silica, and nickel in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Philippines. And also, we see that in Indonesia, even geothermal plants, which are often powered by coal, are also proposed, or are also being pushed as energy transition projects. Yeah. So when indigenous communities are impacted, their lands are impacted, their resources are impacted by these projects, it adds actually a layer of difficulty to oppose these projects, because the governments or the promoters get an additional kind of argument to make, that these are projects needed to tackle the ongoing climate crisis. Yeah. And that is where often these kind of projects also get an additional layer of shield from any criticism. Yeah. That is also the experience of many communities, in many indigenous and other communities in Nepal, whereby hydropower is being pushed aggressively by the government, development actors. Private hydropower is seen as the means of prosperity. So the communities who are opposing these hydropower projects are seen as anti-development, anti-national, and I think these are experiences across the region, across the countries. The other big challenge that we see is that like in most countries in Asia, is that indigenous peoples continue to be unrecognized, not recognized as distinct groups with collective rights over their lands, territories, and resources, with collective rights to self-determination, and with rights to free prior and informed consent about decisions that are made that impact them. No. So in this context, I think the resistance have taken a lot of forms, from ground resistance, underground resistance, to litigations, to resistance during elections, like to try to see which political forces could help them. But at the same time, as with the experience of the solar park affected communities in Assam, many communities have also taken their struggle, taken their advocacy to the investors, particularly the multilateral development banks, because we continue to see that these multilateral development banks push harmful projects in the name of energy transition. Yeah, I would like to particularly note one community that we have been working with, the Tanahu hydropower project affected communities who struggled for years to raise their concerns about inadequate land compensation, about disrespect for their free, prior, and informed consent by the authorities and the project implementer, which is a state-owned enterprise, the Tanahu Hydropower Limited. But in the context of the Tanahu hydropower project, it was only when the communities could take their fight to the Asian Development Bank and the European Investment Bank that are co-financing the project along with JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agency. These authorities and the project implementer even started coming to talk with them. No, the same is the experience of indigenous Pocolio communities in Indonesia that have also taken their fight to that have also filed a complaint with KfW, German Development Bank, to raise concerns to assert their right to free, prior, and informed consent in the context of the expansion of the Ulumbu geothermal plant. Based on all these experiences, we have continuously been asking the multilateral development banks that they need to diligently apply they need to diligently respect the right to free, prior, and informed consent of indigenous communities in the projects that they finance. But time and again we see that the FPIC exercise only becomes a tick box exercise. The requirements for FPIC from these banks are still not at par the international human rights standards, including the ILO Convention 169 and UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. The indigenous leaders, indigenous communities have been asking that these FPICs should be required for any project that is implemented in indigenous territory, not only when those projects impact their lands and resources and may displace them or may impact their cultural heritage. No, but that is still a long fight. But at the same time, on the other hand, it is besides the reactive resistance, the other call that we have been making to these investors, to these banks, to these development actors is that they need to see indigenous peoples as partners for development, not just as a beneficiary or a stakeholder for development, which is how they are often presented. No, so in communities that in some countries, what we have started to do is promote indigenous-led energy solutions in the form of micro hydro projects, in the form of mini solar projects, whereby communities are the developers of those of their own projects, designers of their own projects, engineers for those projects that are implemented in their lands. Of course, these in the communities that we are working with in these Asian countries, these projects are small scale or local level projects that are not utility scale. But what we have also seen is in countries such as Canada, USA, Australia, indigenous nations there, First Nations there, or Native American communities there, Aboriginal communities there, have even been able to set up their own utility scale projects and even set up their own energy companies, that have been a way of asserting their self-determination over their lands. So I think that is also one way that we could continue our struggle to not just be a passive kind of receiver of external projects, but also to design these development projects or solutions that we want to see in our lands, so that we can assert control over our lands and resources before any harmful external projects are implemented or are proposed in our lands. I think that's where those are the two particular experiences of resistance that I would share. But I would definitely like to end or give some parting thoughts that based on the experience or in line with the experience of the Assam Solar Park project affected communities too. Indigenous communities continue to fight all across Asia to assert their right to free, prior, and informed consent for any project that impacts them in line with their right to self-determination, which includes the right of the communities to either to not only be consulted, but also to say yes or no to any project that impacts them. No, and FPIC again is not being understood in such context by unfortunately by the development actors who these development actors that claim to uphold international standards, or uphold accountability. And secondly, I think that, and this is the last thought, secondly, indigenous communities again across Asia and across the world have been asking for more direct, adequate, and flexible climate financing for them to implement their own solutions in their lands. And I think that is again another way of resistance for indigenous communities that we have been trying to achieve. Hopefully, in the coming years and decades, we'll see more indigenous solutions being promoted, so that we become the deciders of our own fate. Just one last thing, I congratulate the Assam Solar Power Project affected communities for their victory. Although we are also hearing that there are still challenges to overcome in the coming days and in the coming months and years. And on behalf of APNI, on behalf of myself, we stand in solidarity with the communities in Assam, as well as other indigenous communities in Asia, in their fight for their rights, in asserting our self-determination over our lands. Thank you again, Anupam, and thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, Praveen. This was really an amazing, the way you have told us about how the resistance can be organized. This is a great thing. I want to just take a moment to tell the audience who have been listening to us very patiently. Our chats are enabled, so you can put your questions in the chat. And we also have a document. If you can see the chat box, please add your questions for panelists and solidarity messages on the slides. We will address them after the speeches by the panelists. So please keep them coming. You can click on the Google Doc link to put the questions up, or you can also raise your hand, and our technical team will take a note of this. I'd like to take this opportunity to move on to our next speaker, who has joined us from all the way from Philippines. Her name is Joanne Gulao, and she's the coordinator of the environmental and human rights team. She's a part of the Indigenous People's Rights International, and she's going to tell us about how she's seeing this movement from, and she's been also following us, our work too. So let's hear from her. Thank you so much, Joanne.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Yes, indeed, it's very overwhelming and inspiring listening to our previous speakers, but especially to the experience of Assam. Again, thank you for organizing this very important discussion. Of course, the experience from Assam is a strong statement of indigenous people's critical role in all these overlapping global crises that we are facing. The climate change, biodiversity loss, and sustainable development. Again, this has strongly give the statement that indigenous peoples are a critical demographic at the intersection of climate change, biodiversity goals, and sustainable development. As we all know, states are having decisions to adopt policies and actions to create just transitions regimes with respect to addressing climate change, biodiversity loss, and sustainable development. And these are taking place simultaneously at different processes. We have heard of the UN FCCC and the Convention on Biodiversity, where they're all trying to connect all this development of decisions at the international level. But meanwhile, narratives to extract minerals and transition to renewable energy, and even use artificial intelligence or other technologies are also being pushed by the governments, by private sectors, and mostly investors as important strategies to be adopted, and thereby societies must accept this. The idea that extraction of minerals is inevitable, even to the extent of social and environmental harm, is a dangerous narrative. Again, we are being put in this difficult situation. Many of us indigenous communities are globally facing significant threats to our land, livelihoods, human rights, as development projects, including renewable energy initiatives, encroach into our territories. And this often involve lack of consultation, land grabs, environmental damage, and violence against us defenders. And despite these enormous risks, Indigenous peoples and other activists across the globe continue to mobilize to protect their rights, territories, and just to also reiterate what has been shared in many of the studies, Indigenous peoples carry much of the burden for preserving the environment, protecting and caring for about 1/4 of Earth's land surface, as indicated by institutions such as the World Bank study. At least 24% of the above ground carbon in tropical forests and up to 80% of the world's remaining biodiversity are found in the lands and territories of Indigenous peoples. And these same territories of Indigenous peoples, as suggested by recent study, holds more than half of the energy transition minerals and metals, which the same territories are being eyed by government, investors, and private sectors as a resource to exploit, to address climate change, biodiversity loss, and to attain sustainable development. Again, we are seeing exploitative activities happening in our territories, often infringing on our rights to information, public participation, and our basic right to free, prior, and informed consent. But nonetheless, as what we saw in the experience of Assam and many activists around the globe, we continue to work tirelessly to increase pressure on government and companies in the global north for them to take biodiversity loss and climate change seriously. On the surface, it might look that these colonial powers are taking responsibility, but many of them are still abandoning attempts to restore biodiversity by promoting militarized forest conservation models in the countries of the global south. Similarly, the shift to renewable energy, the current trajectory of energy transition is actually posing threats to us Indigenous peoples, because this colonial power still fails to meet the criteria of justice, social equity, and environmental stability. And Indigenous peoples are still experiencing an increasing trend of criminalization and attacks, as we have also noted in the experience of Assam, whenever they speak out against the imposition of these mining activities and energy projects that violate their rights. And obviously, this is happening on both ends of the renewable energy value chain, including mining of transition minerals and renewable energy projects. So yes, indeed, for us Indigenous peoples, we still continue to call the attention of the government and private sectors to treat us as equal partners with dignity for development. As a partner, we call for the integration of our perspectives into energy planning and decision making. And when we say our perspectives, that includes our culture, our life ways, and also to uphold our fundamental right to free, prior, and informed consent. Again, our free, prior, and informed consent is a central issue to ensure a human rights-based approach. This is not just a process for governments and companies to comply with. It's not just for us to say yes or no, but it is actually a basic right that protects and fulfill our other rights, like our right to this self-determined development and our right to keep our lands. And I think also an insight from our community leaders who have spoken earlier. I think, yes, we are here at this stage that we continue to say our own stories, to address the narratives that are being propagated by all these powerful, governments, investors, and private sectors. Let's change the narratives that they are manipulating to fit their interests. So yes, again, I also say my sincere congratulations to the efforts and to the initiatives that we saw in the successes of Assam movement as they deal with the ongoing issue of the solar power project. Again, as I can also derive from our earlier from the earlier sharing, this is still the beginning of more work for us to do in the future. So I think I will end at this point. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanne. This was really nice to hear from you and your kind words. So I think we will open this session to our, the audience who've been patiently. Some of you have also sent your questions through the slides that we can see here. And I would also request you to use the raise hand icon, and we will get to you. But we will start with the messages that have already come to us on the slides. And I think there are some of you have congratulated the community members. There's this message. Congratulations to the community members for the withdrawal of the loan, sending lots of support and solidarity for the struggle. And there's also another very, I think the community members would love to know. Congratulations to all the members of the affected communities who did not give up raising their voices against unfair development, and to determined organizers who kept the struggle going. May your future be bright and your fights inspire other affected indigenous peoples. Thank you so much for these messages. I would like to come to some questions here. This first one, can you please clarify what happened with permission taken from autonomous committee? I suppose it's autonomous council that you mean. How was the consent bypass? What are the learnings for the schedule 6 areas or schedule 5 areas with similar experiences? I think Vikram, would you be able to tell us more about what happened with the autonomous council? Are you here? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we have a government called local government. We call that is Karbi Anglong Autonomous Council, and it is governed under the mini constitution that is called a 6th schedule. So, in the 6th schedule area, the land ownership belongs to the Karbi Anglong Autonomous Councils, and then now in this case, the Assam Solar Project in this case. The Karbi Anglong Autonomous Council is now ruled by the BJP government. So whatever the state government and the central government directed them, they blindly follow the state government as well as the central government. That's they themselves doesn't follow their own constitution or the mini constitution that they have. So that's the reason why the autonomous councils are compelled to support the state government just to implement the solar power project. Like in the solar power project affected villages, we came to know that the area is very rich in agricultural products and it's a rich resources, we can say. But the local government has reported to the APDCL that the land is 90% of the land is barren land and unproductive land. That was what they bypassed it. So it is very heartening for the local government that they could not exercise, but they just listen from the state government and bypass the ground law that we have, that's called a 6th schedule. Yeah.
Thank you, Vikram. I think these are some of the learnings that we can share also. Can I have the slide back up, please? We can look at the other questions also. Thank you. So see, we have. So how? How can FPIC exercises be made more robust? This is the next question. What is the best way to get collective consent, if possible? Would Vidya be able to take this question, and then maybe also Joanne, because she was talking about FPIC. So I would like to hear from both of you. I'll start with Vidya first.
Okay. So I was thinking that in this particular case, if we look at it specifically,
what would have been the ideal thing? Yes, since we know that the Assam government has been not really democratizing the rural or even the urban space and local governance in the way that it's enshrined in the Constitution, that the sixth schedule doesn't really work as well as it seems to be on paper. There should have been this due diligence, especially because FPIC is mandatory for the ADB if they are getting involved in a project, that they actually check with their people on the ground whether at least 70–80% of the population of the project affected villages are okay with this. This is enshrined even in our law, right? The 2013 Act says if it's a government project, at least 70%, and this is not even an indigenous people's land. 70% of the people have to agree. I mean, if it's a private project, it needs to be 80%. So you should have done this due diligence according to Indian law, according to your own policies, and you should not just, as they often do across projects, we've seen it time and time again, that they listen only to the borrower, as they call them, their client, which is APDCL and the Assam government now, who really want to, they do not treat their own people, their own citizens with dignity, to sit down with them, to explain to them, and to get proper consent. You cannot just have some people who are the power structure controlled by the government, some of them even paid by the government, to say yes and accept that for the whole community. And because the ADB is an Asian bank, it's not the EIB, it's not the European Investment Bank that doesn't know Asian, governments and the way they function and how our communities are so top down even. And so the Asian Development Bank had no excuse. They've clearly erred in the worst fashion possible, and they need to, I think, document this as learning for within the bank for their other peer banks, and also to warn the Indian government that we have been your long-term development partner. We cannot have this being repeated, that there is a consent which is manufactured with the powerful at the local level. And this is definitely not the way we want to see renewable energy projects on the ground, where, there are more risks for community. So I think the responsible exit, or the RE that I talked of, has to be for this RE project, where they saw how things went wrong, they right these wrongs, and they see that they do not get into any other renewable RE project from now on, which is not community centric, doesn't have the okay from the community, is not democratically put in place with the consent of the majority in the area that it's coming for, that it's coming in. Yeah.
Thank you, Vidya. This is great to hear from you. Can I have Joanne quickly add to this? I mean, because she was talking about FPIC. I'll also come to Praveen because he's worked on it, worked on FPIC and also trying to improve. So after Joanne, it's Praveen. So can I hear from Joanne also on this?
Yes, thank you so much once again. Again, free, prior, and informed consent. It is very important for us to really understand that this is a right for us Indigenous peoples. We should understand FPIC from the rights perspectives. It's not always, we should not see it like as how the mainstream society look at it as stakeholder consultation. Again, free, prior, and informed consent provides a mechanism to protect Indigenous peoples from exploitation and ensure that development projects do not negatively impact their lives, cultures, and our traditions. So by requiring our consent, it means they're acknowledging our rights and they're respecting our rights as Indigenous peoples, our right to decide on how our lands and resources are to be used, and which is a key aspect of of these resources are to be used for our own development. And so I just want to reiterate was what we sorry, I could not remember the name, but the first speaker just mentioned about having this informed decision making that ensures Indigenous peoples receive sufficient information about any proposed projects, allowing them to be able to make informed decisions about whether or not to participate in this project or not. And so again, to ensure a collective decision making, there has to be enough or sufficient dialogue, and there has to be mutual recognition between Indigenous peoples and development actors to gap the understanding and promote a more effective development, and allowing Indigenous peoples to really be heard, and their rights are respected from the stand view of free, prior, and informed consent would really contribute to a more sustainable development and better alignment of the needs and aspirations of the communities involved in the project. I think that's
Thank you.
that's
Thank you.
all that I can say here.
Well, this was important. Can I quickly have Praveen here, because the question is that how can FPIC exercises be made more robust, and what is the best way to get collective consent? So if you can touch upon these two aspects. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Anupam. I won't elaborate on FPIC, on the importance of FPIC as a right for Indigenous peoples in line with their right to self-determination. I think Joe has already, kind of explained that well. In terms of but when it comes to the practical application, I think that is where we are facing challenges. So I think I would try to I'll share some examples how Indigenous communities are asserting their rights to free, prior, informed consent. No, in other countries, in many countries, such as Malaysia and others, including in Nepal, what we have seen is Indigenous communities have they have been doing this for a while, have developed and adopted their free, prior, and informed consent protocols to kind of to kind of put it explicitly how they should be consulted and how their decisions should be respected. Yeah, in the context of Nepal, Indigenous communities in Western Nepal that have been affected by a transmission line, Marshangdi Corridor transmission line, that was financed by European Investment Bank, have kind of outlined extensive consultation processes that need to be undertaken as part of their right to free, prior, informed consent. In that, they have outlined that there should be consultations with women, there needs to be consultations with youth, there need to be consultation with the traditional decision making structures, not only one public hearing that the project implementers or the government authorities often do when they want to implement a project. No, and if even after all these consultations the communities say no, then the project should not go ahead. That is what they have put explicitly in the FPIC protocol. The same has done, the same practice has been also done in Malaysia earlier, whereby they have even written down their customary laws, that these are the customary laws of these communities that need to be respected when you are consulting with us or planning any project in our lands. No, so these FPIC protocols again could be let's say a practical tool to kind of guide these people who don't know FPIC or don't know how to implement FPIC, through the perspective of FPIC. In another example, I would say, and I think this is personally inspiring for me, and I've been talking with a lot of communities in Nepal to even replicate this in Nepal. In another and this is the experience of Wampis Nation in Peru, which is a nation composed of Amazonian indigenous tribes, whereby the indigenous tribes have come together to demarcate their lands, to map their lands, and undertake extensive village consultations to even proclaim an indigenous autonomous government in Peru, within Peru, no, and declared their own constitution. They did that again because they were facing a lot of reprisals, a lot of challenges from logging companies, mining companies that were coming to loot the Amazonian river and the river banks and harm the communities from their resources. No, in that case too, again, the communities have made it clear in their constitution when they declared the indigenous autonomous one piece government that we are still part of Peru. We are not seceding from Peru, but in these lands, these are the rules that apply, that we have formulated based on consultations among our people, and these need to be respected by the government of Peru, by anyone who comes to these lands, to implement any project. No, and they have been implementing these laws regardless of the support from the government of Peru or not. They have been doing guarding their forests, their lands without any guns, but they are homemade or like traditional weapons. And I think it's high time that many communities in this region also start asserting their autonomy, their self-determination, and their right to free, prior, informed consent based on these proactive tools or proactive assertions. Yeah, thanks, Anupam. I hope that was useful.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Praveen. Actually, Praveen has also shared the FPIC protocol and it's there on the chat. So I request the audience to kind of download it. And I think this will be a very useful resource for the community. There's a question that I wanted to also address over here. It's there on the chat. What will be the next steps in communities' advocacy for sustainable energy infrastructure development, if possible, share in this space? So I think I would like to go to again Vidya, if you can, and then also if Jiten can very quickly add 2 points in that. Vidya, can you tell us more on this?
So the question was what the community should do, is it? I didn't see it in the chat. I'm sorry, you're on mute, Anupam. That's usually a good thing, but not right now.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I read it out. Oh, it's there on the chat.
Okay.
Yeah. What will be the next steps in the community's advocacy for sustainable energy infrastructure development? If possible, share in this space.
Okay. So, we are in love with things that are small. Okay. And if they are community owned, and therefore, if the community feels that there is a deficit of electricity, energy, whatever, then I would say let's go in for community owned small scale solutions. It could be something so simple as rooftop solar, agrovoltaic solar. All of these are easier than, ruining elephant corridors, people's homes, removing villages just for solar panels to be put up in large fields. Instead of that, let's think differently. Maybe solar along the highway. Other options that are community friendly, community led, community owned, and really that kind of ownership of RE solutions that allow for a dignified existence as the community pleases is what we look forward to. And the community has several ideas. Why does the government think that it knows best? It clearly doesn't know best. It's stuck with its head in in the past. There's no reason for them to keep pushing these large, non-friendly, non-citizen centric solutions down the throats of our communities. So we are telling them, hello, all these are old hat ideas. Take them away. We know how to manage our lives. We've done so fabulously till now. That's what we heard very clearly from Anita and Bikram, both of them. And I think the Karbi Anglong community clearly knows that there are options that they can exercise when they think it is the right time.
Thank you, Vidya. Can Jitin quickly add to these points? The question is, do you want me to read out the question? What will be the next steps in communities'
No, no,
advocacy for sustainable energy infrastructure development?
it's okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. Um, I mean, it's all about alternatives, no? And I think the communities are already expressing a lot of alternatives already, alternatives, energy solution that is community oriented, as Vidya was referring to, and I think that is very much part and parcel, and also not just to the community, but also energy solution that is sensitive to the climate change impact, and also something that can also uphold the environmental integrity in Assam as well, because we cannot go for energy alternative that destroy the environment and the forest and destroy people's life and this thing. That is one. And also when you look at energy solution, I think it should be all about alternatives. When you talk about alternative, it should be about feasible alternatives that is sensitive to the people's needs. No, that is one. And also alternatives. When you look at alternatives, it's all about the participation. It cannot be something that is decided by the corporations or the project proponents or by the profit mongering. Whoever, whatever the developers. No, so I think that's where the importance of the free and informed consent comes in. No, and I think that is extremely important. And it's sometimes also good to acknowledge that Northeast is already power surplus. Actually, we are actually Northeast, given the kind of gas power plants, the dam, all sort of this thing. It's a power surplus. This thing. So why should we go for mega mega? It is not just solar park. If you see the Northeast cumulatively, there are so many mega solar projects and also dam projects, which are being pursued in the region, which are very unsustainable, destructive, and this thing, something that is despite the alternatives important. And finally, as I also reiterated earlier, it's extremely important for part of the community advocacy to also closely monitor any financing initiative from the government. ADB has stopped for this project. That's good, but in Northeast, if you look at the energy financing lens, the World Bank is very much active. The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank is very much active. And then there are several other bilateral financiers, starting from JICA, starting from Proparco, FMO, Dutch, DEG Germany, KfW Germany, So there are a lot of financiers, including private equity funds, and it's really, really important even for the community and also, the community, those supporting the communities also to closely monitor with what the government is trying to embark on the financing part. Yeah, I think that is extremely important. And then of course the importance of consolidating this unity and the solidarity and sustaining the community resistance and effort. I think that's extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jitin. And I think we have also, there are interesting links about FPIC resources shared by Praveen on the thing. Can you hear me? Yeah. I would really like it if some of you can suggest the next steps also, that what should community do for the sustainable development that we are talking about. I think there is, if I can have the slide up. Yeah, there's a interesting question here, and I think it should be addressed because it shows how precarious the movements are. And I would really like the community representatives to kind of make our audience understand the threat of violence which is there. So this question is related to multiple people mention about the threats and violence which is probably there or not there. What has been the nature of these threats, and now how have the communities handled them? This is in context of the Karbi Anglong solar power project, and what kind of threats you have faced. So if I can start with Anita, can you tell us about the threats that you faced on the ground while raising this issue? Are you there, Anita? Can you hear me? Hi. Yeah. I think you have to. Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yes, there were so many threats, threats from, I should say, political rivals also. And then, since their government want to bring this project, they were threatening the villagers not to host any meeting, and they were threatening the villagers not to object, not to oppose the solar in several occasions. And Of course, the other day we were having an, trying to have a meeting with our leaders and all the villagers, affected villagers, but the government has again opposed to have a meeting. We had a very tough time, but the administration and even the police tried to stop our meeting with the villagers. And yes, many things were there. Even in the villagers, those who supported the solar affected landowners, they were also threatened in the night. So by many individuals, those who are wanting the solar to come, there are few. I feel it's a pity that these people don't understand what is the effect that is going to happen. They, maybe the government has also asked them, told them that they will be paying a good amount or do something like that. So we were affected a lot. The people were frightened. They were even to cross the village also they were scared. Our boys, those who are objecting or opposing the solar, they were scared to move around also. So even meetings were disturbed. The government also, the autonomous council had even sent the administration to stop any meeting that is opposing the solar. So that is how we faced. Yeah.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you for sharing this. And this is really disheartening to know the kind of threats that you are facing. I think Vikram also would like to add, because Vikram has been under a lot of, he's faced a lot of flack from a lot of people telling him, calling him, threatening him. I've heard those stories. So Vikram, could you share, and how do you process it?
Yeah, this is really a hard time for all of us, especially the Karbi Anglong Solar Project Affected Committee members. Especially they are the first group of people which is very much threatened by those in favor of those solar project. So in the last few days, we have been mobilizing in the village and we have been engaged with the people and sharing our success story that the ADB has cancelled the funding with the villagers. We are about to do one program to interact with those affected peoples, affected villagers. But on that preparation of that program, I was very badly threatened verbally by those supported by those autonomous councils that saying that I will be hang upside down if I were there for the meeting. So there is one single instance, and there is also a lot of instances indirectly, and then trying to pressurize us to stop this movement. So it is very hard time for all of us. And then on the 10th of June, day before yesterday, there is supposed to have one gathering with the affected villagers and the committee. But that program was also forcefully stopped by the police force. So we have been questioning the administration, also to the district administration, also why our meeting was trying to disrupt by the police. So they could not reply us. They could not give us the rigid answer why they have to stop our meeting. We have been applying for the information also that we have sent the information to the administration as well as the police department that we are going to host meeting on that day. That was the information we have sent to them. But they are saying that the meeting was not conducted with the due permission from the administration. So alternatively, we have been also asking back to them that what is the laws that you have that we need to grant permission for the positive assembled of the people in the villages. So that also they could not reply us. So it is collectively the government is trying to suppress us a lot. So I want to request all the leaders of this global forum also to help us in this regard so that we can have a safety of our life as well as those be affected villages that they have been daily facing the threats indirectly or directly in that area. Yeah. Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Vikram. And it's been a very topsy-turvy ride for you guys. You know, and in fact, I think this week itself, 2 days back, we were in Karbi Anglong when you just wanted to inform the people that you had got this very interesting intervention from the ADB. This canceling the loan, and you and the entire bunch of the leaders, the community elders, Anita, everybody who were present there, we were stopped by the police and told that you don't have permission. You don't have the permission to go to your own community land. So that has been still. So we can see that the state is extremely vindictive. In fact, one of our comrades, one of our friends who had voiced his opinion. He is also from Assam, and he was there, and he was called out by the CEM of. I think it's very condemnable. The CEM Tuliram Ronghan. He called the convener of the Karbi Anglong Solar Power Committee, the convener Pranab Dole. They called him murderer, and all fabricated charges, and like said that they are all anti-development. So this is the kind of abuse and threat that the community has to face. And even when there was one message that you had to convey to the community, you were not allowed, and there was a huge police presence. There was snatching of microphones, there was snatching of batteries from the
Yeah, exactly.
people. It's totally there was no order, there were no prohibitory orders, and I think there is a lot that has to be achieved in this fight, and this is just the first step, I feel. And I've also, I think there are some interesting data or interesting points which have been shared by our esteemed panelists. There's one by Joanne who has shared the Legal Defense Sanctuary Fund. I think this is very important for the frontline defenders like Anita, like Vikram, and even Pranab also, who have been at the ground and facing these kind of threats. But however, I think I can, if the hosts would like, they can open the conversation to other, if there are any more thoughts that they want to kind of convey to our esteemed panelists or anyone present over here. So I'll just take 2 minutes maybe, and then maybe wrap up with a quote from one of our audience who has shared a congratulatory message. So if we can have more questions, maybe anyone can speak right now. You have all been unmuted, so our panelists are here. You just have to raise a hand. Vikram, anything that you want to add? Thanks. Great. Good to see you all. And also, I think I just wanted to actually this one congratulatory message that came. This is a lot of this is for all of the people who kind of struggled in this movement. Congratulations to all the member of the affected communities who did not give up raising their voices against unfair development to determine organizers who kept the struggle going. So this is one of the messages. Then other one, the congratulations and heartfelt love and solidarity to Assam Collective Action, and also to everyone who's living for a better future for future generations. Because of your examples, we are already experiencing a world of love and compassion. So this is, I think, this is what we take home with us. And I really want to thank all of you, all the audience, the panelists who have joined, who spent some time with us, shared your views, your precious resources also. And I also want to thank the community members who were there, who have attended this. Anita, you want to add something?
Anupam, there's a message from the villagers. I'll just read it out. We bring greetings on behalf of all the affected landowners and thank each and every member who helped us save our land over the solar project affected area. Our prayers for you, nothing to give you in return. To all the activists who helped us, but keep you in our prayers for your good health, and we anticipate your support in future to save our land. Thank you. The affected landowners, that's all.
Thank you so much, Anita, for conveying this message to all of us. I think this is a huge boost for all the fighters. And
Yes.
I have a friend who want to read out a thank you note to all of us who are present here. So may I request Ranjani to share your thoughts?
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. It was a lovely sharing by all the panelists, all the speakers, and thanks much to Anupam for holding the fort together and moderating it for us. I hope you had, all your questions answered and about this very long but finally successful attempt to get them to get out from the loan. But like you heard from them, the battle is far from over. All the speakers, especially Bikram and Anita, thank you so much, Jiten, Pravin, and Joanne as well, Vidya. You're my teammate, but thank you so much for doing this session. Like they said, continue to support them. They need, now is when they need a lot of support because it's only the loan which has been withdrawn, and there's much to do before the project itself is either withdrawn or does not impact the Kabi Anglong lands, right? So there is a lot more to do and a lot more solidarity with the people. And thank you for this session. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
just to add, we will also send you the recording and all the information if you have signed up with your email. Otherwise, you can feel free to leave it in the chat in the next couple of minutes. Thank you. Thanks, Anupam.
And
Thanks.
thanks to the
Thank-
audience for being so wonderful and with us till the end of this. And we hope that you will remain with us in the long fight ahead, because the ADB might have moved out, but the solar power project will still be live, pushed by the Assam Power Development Corporation. And that's a long fight that is still needed to be fought with all solidarity and support.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, I will end the session now. Thank you all. Thank you for attending. Bye-bye. Good evening.